Hello everybody, I'm back again with my Armattan Rooster Build. This time I have some problems with, I'm just having some problems with this frame. Yeah, I'm gonna let you know here. While I was publishing my last video, another video came out from the manufacturer, or I guess the engineer that designed this, implying that I guess he's implying that it's this whole thing I had with the delamination of the carbon on this piece. He just said it doesn't matter because the piece really isn't doing anything but holding the bolts, and I see that, or the nuts I should say. These guys right here, if you can see that. I did test fly this, by the way. I'm going to probably put some video up of that, what it looked like. I haven't tuned it, but it did seem to fly really well. Anyway, back to the point here. I previously made a video that talks about the three things I didn't like about the frame, and that was, it's really not that much of a negative. It just let you know that you need the type of camera. If you want to secure this camera very well, you have to get the type of camera that the new ones. I think it's called the mini style that has the 3 bolts on the side. Although I was able to crank this down and it holds pretty well that way. I just don't like this on the back. That was the second thing, and then the third thing was I just thought it was poor engineering to supply you a piece of carbon like this that you had to force the sunken nut into, and it delaminates the carbon, and there you go. And he suggested, well, you know, you can just put regular nuts on there. Yeah, I get that. The thing that bugged me about that video, he went into a pretty long explanation of why, and this is something I didn't even bring up because I didn't think it was that much of an issue. A lot of people are saying, wow, this is a bad frame because the arms move. And sure enough, if I crank on that, I get a couple millimeters of movement there. And on all 4 of these probably. Yeah. So the video went on to describe why this would be. And I'm saying that I just don't think they're, yeah, they move, but I don't think they're going to be flopping around in flight, especially if you tighten these down enough. So I'm back to what he was saying on there, is that they chose these type of screws here. I don't know why the button heads wouldn't work, but hey, whatever. These look cool on there. They're flat. They're not a button head. They're a very flat stainless steel screw. Maybe you can see it there. Let's bring this light up a little bit. Anyway, alright, whatever, you chose these screws to put on the frame. In the manufacturer's haste to build a bunch of these, they had some that the stamped portion of this where your tool is supposed to grip into I have one here that I got that was just like that. I got extra screws with this kit, so I didn't even think about it at the time. I just grabbed another one, but apparently, I don't know if you can see that in there, but this, you would not be able to torque this down very much with any type of Allen screw, just because the machining, it's not a machining, but it's just because the stamp connector there where you're supposed to put the tool in is malformed. It's not. So I discarded. I had to go find this because I threw it away. But I wanted to show you on the video. I hope you can see it. I'm not convinced, but take my word for it. If you were to try to put this in, you'd say, "Wow, there's something wrong with that," and you'd probably do the same thing as I did and just throw it away. But on the manufacturer's website, their latest video says, well, that's probably why your arms are moving. And I guess I took a little insult to that, thinking that, wow, he thinks that I would not have noticed that, and then I would notice that, wow, I can't torque that down. All these other ones are good, but this one that was malformed is not torqueable down. And you know, they're a good company. They say, well, they'll supply you new bolts, and they have, I guess, some ones with these are 1 millimeter thick flat heads on there. They have one, I thought 1.5 or 2. I think he said. You can go reference that video for all that information, and they will send them to you, and that's great. And he says, all right, so now that it's in there, now you can crank these down really tight. And I'm telling you, I feel like I'm going to break either my tool or the screw in there on these M3. That's as tight as I can get it. And if you look at the design of this, the only thing that's holding these in position are these 2 screws, and it's in this case it's sandwiched a little bit by the titanium on the back here. There's nothing. It's just the two screws. It's the 2 sunken nuts and that piece of carbon fiber. So for this, there's no interference fit. This is just, or there's no engineering fit either. It's just you bolt it on there, and it relies on friction to hold it into position. And like I said, I can move it. It moves a little bit. I don't feel like it's loose enough to where it's going to be changing its position in flight. So I don't know necessarily that it's. I mean, it's gonna when you crash, it's gonna move into its aft position or whatever. But it's really not that much of a movement. So I don't want to take that away from them. But if you design it this way, there's going to be some tolerance in the holes. There's got to be a little bit of room in there, or you wouldn't be able to put the screws in. And there's just no way that you could manufacture that with this engineering technique and not have a little bit of movement in there. So how do you solve that? These arms don't move at all. This is the chameleon frame, of course, and it's all one piece, and you don't have to worry about arm movement there. The disadvantage being that you can't change arms if you break it, so you'd have to change the whole bottom plate out, which I guess would be a hassle, but you know what, I've never broken one. So if you're going to engineer removable arms like this, there's more that has to be done as far as if you want no motion on it, this is not a 100% solution. And like I said, I was a little not offended, but insulted by the fact that he would think that I wasn't smart enough to notice that one of these screws was bad. And I'm telling you, these are as tight as I can get them, and there is still that little bit of tolerance in there. Another way I've seen this engineered, this is an old Walkera 215 frame that has many modifications to it at this point, but don't buy one of these, by the way. It has removable arms. There's 3 screws that remove the arm, but they kind of lock together. So when they're in position, they push up against each other, and that kind of helps a little bit. But even with that, this has 3 screws holding it in, and they're tight, and I can still get a little bit of motion out of that. So I don't know. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe it is. What does everybody think? You can comment on this video. I always respond. Other than that, I really want to like this frame. I really do. I think it's beautiful. I think for the most part it's well engineered. It flies fine. Flies very, with my limited piloting skills, it flies similar to the Chameleon, as you would expect it to, because it weighs about the same. I'll also try to post some video of the first flight that I did with it. I had the GoPro on it. I was trying to be careful with it because I wanted to send this frame to somebody else. I may just build them a Chameleon until I'm happy with the build on this. There's stuff like this just bothers me. Anyway, good day. I'll see you next time.